On the happiest day of my life, my world collapsed in front of everyone. When I walked up the aisle with my heart racing and the purest smile on my face, I never imagined that behind the veil and the flowers lay the greatest betrayal a bride could ever face. My name is Jiwoo, and what happened to me that day not only destroyed my marriage, it also exposed a secret that shook Seoul's elite. The man I loved was in love with another woman, and not just any woman. What would you do if you were betrayed in front of your own family, friends, and the press the moment you said, "I do"? This is the story of a woman who was humiliated at the altar, but who decided to get back on her feet with dignity and revenge. Prepare yourself for a plot worthy of a perfect revenge. Twists and turns, tears, broken alliances, and an ending that no one could have predicted. So, what would you do in my place? Would you be able to forgive, or would you make the world pay for what they did to you? My name is Jiwoo. I'm 28 years old, and I'm the only daughter of a traditional and wealthy family in Seoul. I grew up surrounded by expectations, elite schools, and enormous pressure to be perfect. And for a long time I was graduated in business administration from Yonsei University. I took over my father's company early on, but my heart has always been my weak point. That's why I fell for Hyunwoo. Hyunwoo was everything a woman could dream of: handsome, polite, smart, and extremely charismatic. He came from a humbler background, but that never bothered me. He always said he loved me for who I was, not for my inheritance. We met when I walked into a cafe in Gangnam to escape a rainstorm. He was working there as a barista while doing his master's in engineering. We exchanged just a few words, but the kindness in his eyes stayed with me. A few days later, I returned to the same cafe, and he remembered my name. That was the beginning. We dated for 3 years, and even with some warnings from friends and my mother's constant suspicions, I followed my heart. In our 3rd year, he proposed with a simple ring and sincere tears in his eyes. I said yes. The wedding was set for early spring in a luxurious venue in Itaewon. Over 300 guests confirmed, including business moguls, politicians, and influencers. It was the event of the year, and I was happy, or rather blind. The night before the wedding, I received an anonymous message on my phone. "Do you know who he slept with last night?" Attached photo: Hyunwoo in bed with my best friend Soyoung. My body went cold. I couldn't breathe, but instead of canceling everything, I did something unexpected. I took a deep breath and smiled. On the wedding morning, I dressed like a princess. I knew this ceremony would become the centerpiece of Seoul's elite gossip, and I would be the star, but not as the victim. At the altar, when the officiant asked if I accepted Hyunwoo as my husband, I asked to say a few words. Everyone smiled, thinking it was a romantic gesture, but no one expected what would come out of my mouth. Before I say yes, I want to tell a little story about loyalty, about love, and about betrayal. The room fell silent. "Hyunwoo, last night you didn't sleep alone. And what's more interesting is who you slept with." "Yes, Soyoung, the one right there, 2nd row, try not to faint." The hall froze. Someone dropped a glass. My father held his breath. My mother closed her eyes. And Hyunwoo turned pale as a ghost. I continued. I could have canceled everything. I could have disappeared. But I chose to face this here in front of everyone, because I am not weak, and because I deserve better. This ring you gave me, Hyunwoo, keep it. It matches your conscience better. I pulled off the ring, handed it to the officiant, and walked away with firm steps, as if my wedding dress were armor. Some applauded, others whispered. But above all, I was free. The scandal dominated the headlines for weeks. Hashtags like #StealBride and #Betrayal in Seoul went viral. My attitude inspired women across the country. But the story was far from over, because when I thought I was finally done with Hyunwoo, I discovered the betrayal was just the beginning. Hyunwoo didn't disappear from my life. He came back with a terrifying proposal. And worse, he wasn't alone. A name was involved that shook me to the core, my own father. No one could have imagined that, just weeks after walking away from my own wedding, I'd be back stronger, more determined, and with a new goal, to start over and not alone. The video from the altar went viral, turning Jiwoo into a silent legend in Seoul. Some called her the Steel Bride, while others labeled her cold. But inside I was at war, and that war was only just beginning. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice, and more than anything, I wanted answers. Why did Minjae betray me? And why didn't anyone, absolutely anyone, warn me? The truth was much closer than I ever imagined. What would you do if you found out your entire relationship was built on a lie, even your closest friendship? I spent days in isolation after the scandal. I didn't answer messages, turned off my phone, and disappeared from the radar. The world wanted to know where the woman who defied a wedding on national broadcast had gone. But while everyone was talking, I was listening. My heart ached, not because of the betrayal, but because of the show they made out of my life. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were over 6,000 messages. Advertising contracts, interview requests, people eager to turn my pain into entertainment. But one message stood out. It was from an unknown account. Jiwoo! Minjae lied from the beginning. He was never who you think he is. If you want the truth, meet me at Cafe Maru at 5 p.m. I hesitated. It could have been a trap, but curiosity won. When I arrived at the cafe, I didn't find a reporter or a fan, but Yoon, Minji's younger brother, a quiet guy, always living in his brother's shadow. Yoon got straight to the point. I'm not proud of what I'm about to tell you, but you deserve to know everything. He revealed that Minjae was involved in illegal betting, and that he was using the wedding with me as a front to close shady deals with corrupt businessmen. He never loved you. He needed you to look trustworthy in front of investors. And Minha, she was paid to get close to you. Those words hit like blades. I felt the ground vanish beneath my feet. But I didn't cry. I simply thanked him, paid for Yoon's coffee, and walked out with a steady gaze. The pain now had a name: manipulation and betrayal. And I will make sure to dismantle every piece of that rotten theater. I woke up with my heart racing. There were less than 24 hours left until the release of the video I had produced with Yoon's help. All the pieces were in motion, and there was no turning back. The web that supported Minjae was about to collapse. I had sent secret invitations to the press, influencers, and even executives from my ex-fiancé's company. The title of the event was mysterious: The Truth Behind the Veil. No one knew exactly what it was about, but curiosity was already stirring the media. Yoon and I spent the day finalizing the last details. We watched the video over and over again, checked the venue security, and prepared the live broadcasts. It was all or nothing. Deep down, I still felt a painful echo. Minjae didn't just betray me with my best friend. He manipulated everything to make himself look like the perfect man. And that's exactly what I was going to dismantle: an image built on lies. That night, I wore the white dress I had altered. It was the same one I was supposed to wear on our wedding day, but now it had a new purpose. It was no longer a symbol of submission, but of liberation. The room was packed, cameras ready, journalists alert. The air was thick with anticipation. I stepped onto the stage without saying a word, holding only a small remote control. The live stream began, viewer count climbing by the second. With one click, the lights went out and the screen lit up. The video began with Minjae making public declarations of loyalty. Then, behind the scenes, him entering Sunny's apartment repeatedly, texting other women and laughing in a bar, saying, "Marrying Jiwoo is just a smart move. It's business." The room fell silent. People watched in disbelief. And then the final blow. An audio recording played of Minjae saying, "She's pretty but not smart. I can easily control her. After the wedding, I'll lock her in a bubble and do whatever I want. Smart women are a headache." The shock was instant. Social media exploded with hashtags like hashtag betrayed bride, hashtag justice for Jiwoo, and hashtag Minjae exposed. I finally spoke with a steady voice. I was betrayed on the day of my wedding, but I decided not to hide. I wouldn't let myself become just another silenced woman. Today, it's not just him who's unmasked. Today, every woman who has been used and discarded is represented here. The room erupted in applause. Some journalists cried. I left the stage with the posture of someone who had won. Minjae tried to deny it. He posted a statement saying the evidence was fake. But the internet had already made up its mind. No one believed him anymore. Sunhee disappeared from social media. Her name became tied to disgrace, and even her company publicly condemned her actions. I, on the other hand, became a symbol of strength. Invited to interviews, conferences, campaigns about women's empowerment. But that didn't impress me. What truly mattered was this: looking in the mirror and knowing that I chose to rise with dignity and courage. Yoon stayed by my side, quiet, loyal, and never seeking the spotlight. But something between us started to shift. I felt it, though I still wasn't sure if I was ready to open my heart again. That night, alone in my apartment, I looked out over the city and whispered. I didn't destroy anyone. They fell on their own mistakes. And for the first time in months, I smiled. How far would you go to defend your truth? Jiwoo could have stayed silent, but she chose strategy over revenge. When we are betrayed, the greatest victory is not acting with hatred, but with justice. I thought that after everything that happened on that stage, I would finally have peace. But I was wrong. Exposing Minjae was just the beginning. In the days that followed that ceremony, my face was on every Korean news outlet. From betrayed bride to the bravest woman in Seoul, opinions varied, but everyone talked about me. Some praised me, others said I took revenge coldly. But no one knew the pain inside me. Every time I heard Minjae's name, something twisted inside me. I didn't hate him, at least not in the way people expected. I hated myself for trusting so much, for building castles on top of empty promises. But I had to move forward, and I did. Eventually, interview offers came. TV shows invited me. I refused them all at first. I didn't want to turn my pain into entertainment, but something inside me said my story could help other women. So I accepted a primetime show, and there, in a silent studio, staring into the camera, I decided to tell it all. No filters, no edits. My name is Jiwoo. I'm 25 years old, and I was betrayed on my wedding day. At that moment, tears fell, but I didn't stop. I spoke about my childhood, my dedication to studies, my dream of having a family. And then I spoke about him, the man I fell in love with, and how he destroyed everything. I told how I discovered the cheating, how I saw the messages, the videos, his fake smiles as he lied straight to my face. The host tried to hold back her emotions, but I saw her eyes glisten, and I felt I wasn't alone. But I didn't say everything. I kept one part to myself, a part no one expected. Minjae tried to reach me. After the public exposure, he lost contracts, got fired, and his image was completely ruined. And still he messaged me, begged to talk, said he loved me, that it was all a mistake. And worse, that I was also to blame for not being more present, that I was cold. His audacity made me sick. That's when Sunhee came back. She sent me a voice message, crying. She said she was pregnant with Minjae's child. Pregnant. My heart stopped, not out of jealousy or regret, but because Even after everything, the pain was still real. I could pretend to be strong all the time, but that news shattered me. I stayed silent for days. Yoon noticed. He didn't speak much, just looked at me as if trying to carry my pain with his eyes. One day, he took me far away to Incheon, near the sea. There, we sat on the sand, and he simply asked, "Do you want to scream?" And I screamed. I screamed until I had no strength left. I screamed for the Jiwoo who died at the altar, for the girl who believed in blind love, for the woman who had to learn to rise alone. Yoon stayed there, silent. He hugged me and said, "You're not alone, Jiwoo." I cried, but it was a different cry, one of release. That day I decided something. I wouldn't let this pain define me. I had the power to turn what broke me into strength, and more, into protection. That's when I started writing a book. I was betrayed on my wedding day, but what I did after shocked all of Seoul. It wasn't just a confession. It was a letter to all the women who felt small for trusting the wrong person. It was my story, but it was also theirs. And then I received a message. It was from Sunhee. She had lost the baby. And for the first time, I felt compassion for her, because I realized she was also deceived, maybe in different ways. But Minjae was the threat of destruction in both our lives. I simply replied, "I hope you find healing." And with that, I closed the cycle. But something was still missing, or rather, someone. Today, I'm 65 years old. And sometimes when I see my granddaughters running around the living room, with their long black hair and laughter filling the house, I ask myself, how did I make it this far? The answer lies in the story I just shared with you. Back when I exposed Minjae, I had no idea what the future held. I just knew one thing. I could no longer live in silence, accepting the crumbs of what a proud man thought I deserved. That night, when I pressed the button on that remote and revealed the truth, something deep inside me was set free. But life didn't magically become a fairy tale. The backlash was intense. I was attacked, doubted, called too emotional. But the more they tried to tear me down, the more I rose. Yoon and I started a small production company. We told real stories of real women, women who refused to remain silent. For years, Yoon was my right hand, always there, quiet, respectful, loyal. And then one day, in the middle of coffee and planning, he gently held my hand. He looked at me and said, "Jiwoo, I've never been here out of pity. I'm here because I admire you, and if you'll let me, I want to be here not just as a friend, but as your man." I didn't respond right away. In fact, I ran. My heart still carried scars. But over time, I realized it was unfair to demand honesty from others and deny myself the right to love again. 2 years later, I married Yoon. A simple ceremony with close friends. I didn't wear white, I wore red, because this time it was love, not illusion. We had 2 sons. Now they're grown, honorable men, men who respect women because they were raised watching their father love their mother right. My oldest granddaughter is named Haun. She's 17, and she always says she wants to be like Grandma, strong, beautiful, and brave. And every time she says it, my eyes fill with tears. Because the truth is, there was a time I almost gave up on myself. But I chose to fight. Now that you've heard my story, let me ask you, have you ever been betrayed? Lied to by someone who claimed to love you? Look at me. You're not alone. And if I, a woman who was left at the altar, humiliated and torn apart, managed to rise again, so can you. Leave a comment. Share your story. Send this video to someone who needs to know it's possible to heal and rebuild. And if this touched you, hit subscribe. Not for the numbers, but because together we don't just survive betrayal. We build new futures. My name is Jiwoo, and this was my story, told not in pain, but with pride.